and thanks for joining me. What we're looking at in this little segment is comparing how many ions are within a formula. So for example, if you're doing a chemical reaction and you needed to know how much sulfate ion was available in order to precipitate out the barium ion. So we want to make barium sulfate, we want to do a gravimetric analysis, so we want to precipitate out that barium. And that's what this type of calculation will help you work towards. So we have in this case molarity. Molarity is your number of moles. So in this case, I have 0.20 moles of aluminum sulfate in every 1 liter of solution. That's what that 0.2 m means. So the first part of the question asks how many aluminum ions. What would be the molarity of aluminum ion available if we needed that for our reaction? So we're going to do a dimensional analysis. I've got 0.2 moles of aluminum sulfate for every 1 liter of solution. Now to find the aluminum ions, this is an ion within type of calculation. We're going to use that subscript. So we want to eliminate moles of aluminum sulfate, and we want moles of just that cation, that aluminum cation. And that subscript tells me there's 2 moles of aluminum ion for every 1 mole of aluminum sulfate. If you heard that timer, it tells me it's almost time for pizza. Just saying. Okay, so this tells me that my molarity, or moles per liter, of aluminum ion would be 0.400 aluminum ion. And if we wanted the sulfate ion, if that was the information we needed, we could separate that ion out. And I can show you another way if you want to think of it this way that might help. Okay, if you wanted to, instead of just looking at the subscripts, if you want to write the dissociation reaction in water, so if I took that solid and put it into water, I'd get 2 aqueous aluminum ions, and I would get 3 aqueous sulfate ions for every 1 aluminum sulfate. So that's where we're getting those mole to mole ratios there. Okay, so this time I want to know for every 1 mole of aluminum sulfate, I get 3 sulfate ions. Now notice I'm not canceling out the liter because the question wants me to keep it in molarity. So I'm keeping the per liter there. So I still have my per 1 liter there. This time I have 0.600 moles of sulfate per liter. Well, that's what molarity is moles per 1 liter. Those moles cancel. Should have written that there. I have moles of sulfate per liter of solution. That's all there is to it. Thanks for joining me.